Hello and welcome. I'm Midweek Griggin, and I am here for a brand new series. It's the third ever series here that I'm starting from scratch, so MHA doesn't quite count, and as you probably know from the title, thumbnail, and pretty much everything about this, it's going to be Vinland Saga. The show is going to be replacing JJK and is going to be my first official show in the one of two main series on my channel. This is going to be the Modern Masterpiece series. The other one, which will start after rerun is done, is Hinwitty. How have I not watched this yet? And it'll be mainly about older shows that I haven't seen from like the 2010s or even older. But these are the modern masterpieces, and it seems very appropriate that Vinland Saga is one, given what people have been saying about it in excitement, not the actual details, because I know basically nothing about this show, but really just the sentiment around it and with how it obliterated the poll it was in. I'm pretty sure it got twice as many votes as the second option, and it may have even gotten more votes than the other options combined. So it clearly people really, really want to see it, and not very many people are not excited about it. So that's very, very promising. And I can't wait to get into it because I've been excited to watch it as well. If you are new here, by the way, welcome. I'm Adri Gregan, and I have a bachelor's in history, so I'm by no means a tried and tested historian, but I do have a historical inclination, and I do enjoy history quite a bit. I don't know much about like Nordic history and Scandinavian, all that kind of stuff, Vikings. I'm not super familiar with that stuff, so this is going to be a lot of new ground for me. However, I think my lack of expertise in that regard is going to be more than compensated with the IPPC, my community, the International Paragraph Production Committee. And those paragraph warriors you'll see in the comments, most of them will be part of the IPPC, the others will be soon to join, I'm sure, but they are more than happy, and I am more than happy to have them cover my shortcomings. And in the meantime, I will provide the best analysis that I can, mainly about storytelling, characters, philosophy, life, just any of that stuff. And maybe a little bit of animation here and there, though I'm by no means an expert in that one. Normally, this bit before the episode, the pre-ep prep as I call it, is going to be a time where I review the last episode and I go over the comment of the day, my favorite comment, the one I most want to comment on from the last episode. And sometimes it's a comment section of the day, but this time there is, of course, no comment of the day. There's no comments, and there's no last episode to cover. So rather than doing a recap here, I want to introduce myself. I want to introduce the show a little bit with how little I can, because I know almost nothing about it, and I also want to introduce my expectations, what I do know about it, and what I'm going to see going into it. So if you're not interested in any of that, I do have timestamps that are in every single video that'll help you skip to the reaction and different parts about the analysis, usually labeled by topic. So go ahead and check out those timestamps if you're interested in that. But if you're here for the long haul, then buckle in, because let's get started. Ignoring how nonsensical "because let's get started" is as a saying, as a phrase, then here we are, as you can see, with the Vinland Saga My Anime List, and I want to check out this page just a little bit, so just to see what expectations we can have going into it. And already from looking at it, there's a couple things that stand out to me. First of all, this was back in 2019, so right before the pandemic, which is a good sign. It would be certainly a little bit sketchier if it was a year later, because obviously a lot of production struggled a lot during the pandemic, so having this being before it means not only is it there's not really a whole lot holding it back from the greatness that apparently it achieved, but there's even less so because the studio is Wit Studio, which I did not realize. Given that Wit Studio is obviously most known for Attack on Titan, everything up until season 4, that is incredibly promising. As is the themes and demographic sections here, demographic being a seinen, which is, I suppose, makes sense because it didn't strike me as much of a shonen, and especially with the themes of gore and historical, it sounds like it's going to be, while action oriented, it's going to be more about the characters, about the culture around them, and more of adult themes. Now, these can very much be present in things like shonen, many different shonen. I'm pretty sure Attack on Titan itself is a shonen. Regardless, the fact that the demographic is for a seinen does speak a lot to it, so it's probably going to be a little bit less demanding of your attention, and instead it's going to be a show that grips you simply by the nature of the show, which is always great to see. I'm really excited for that. It's going to be something we haven't quite seen on this channel. given that I've only explored shonen so far through Freerin, JJK, and MHA. Also notable here is the score, 8.78, which is quite high. High enough to be ranked number 43 on my anime list, which is no small feat. So clearly the people I had answered the poll who really wanted to see this, they are not an odd minority, nor are they just some outsiders or some very small sample that doesn't seem to represent the large group. This definitely seems to be indicative of the quality of this, so it's no wonder it won the show, won the poll over things like Gachiakuta and what I was expecting to win, Dandadan. No, Vinland Saga won by a large margin, and just looking at these rankings, it's hardly a surprise to me. Now, when it comes to the staffing, I'm not going to go through it in incredible detail, especially because I don't have a lot of experience in that matter. So things like producers, composers, episode directors, I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but naturally I do need to give a highlight to the, uh, I shouldn't say most important role, but a very decisive role in how a story turns out, how an anime turns out. That is, of course, the main director here, which is Shuhei Yabuta, a name I'm not personally familiar with. However, a lot of his works I certainly am. I mean, things like No Game, No Life, Parasite, which was an incredible story, Overlord, which is also very highly reviewed, and I mean, I've seen about the first two seasons or so, and it's a good show. Then beyond that, there's things like Attack on Titan, the final season, storyboarding. Interestingly, though, some of his biggest works, especially in the modern day, this modern year, I should say, he works as a producer, particularly in the production committee of JJK, the latest season 3, the Colon Games Part 1, and then also as an executive producer in Chainsaw Man Reze arc, which is obviously both of those are both very recent and both incredible. So while he's not the director of those, he seems to be just working as a producer. His hands have been in a lot of prolific pies, let's say. So given that he has these works under his belt and that Vinland Saga has clearly turned out well, it seems very promising, and he seems like quite a skilled director. So I look forward to getting to know him better and, yeah, getting his name within my repertoire. One last staff shout out I want to give, of course, even higher than the director, is the writer himself, the original manga of Vinland Saga, Makoto Yukimura, which is another name I look forward to getting to know as I get through this story and as we all go on this journey. It's a name I'm not familiar with, though, and looking at the work he's done, I don't recognize any of these except for obviously Vinland Saga. So while he may not have quite the history as director Yabuta, I would argue that that's almost more impressive because as a writer, obviously you work on less projects, right? Because you're writing these stories, you're not just being in charge of directing it. So the fact that he made such an incredible and engaging story that captured so many people's hearts despite only having a handful of works under his name is incredibly impressive and speaks a lot to what we clearly see, which is how well received and how well made the story was. Okay, I almost forgot to actually call out the composer of this anime, which is, of course, incredibly important and something that we'll be talking about quite a bit, especially a certain member of the IPPC, I've no doubt. Now, like Yukimura, it seems that Yutaka Yamada here doesn't have a whole lot of works that at least I'm familiar with. Pretty much just the different Tokyo Ghouls, which is a very good, not necessarily a good show. The show definitely struggles in a lot of ways. If you know, you know, but the music of it is incredible. And ironically, and perhaps it's where Season Tokyo Ghoul Route A, I would say it has some of the best music. So as a composer, this is very promising. And while there isn't much else to reference here, I have no doubt that considering this was, what, 4 or 5 years after that, he's probably only gotten better. So this, once again, is promising. I see no issues here. But that's going to do it for looking over the staff of the show. The next part is, I suppose, the more interesting part to you guys, most likely, because if you're watching this and you watch through all that, you probably already know all that information already. The thing you don't know is what I know and my own expectations going into the show. So let's finish off the prep by going over that, because obviously that's incredibly important. But it's also going to be a bit of a short conclusion, because honestly, I don't know much. I, of course, know it has 2 seasons, and I believe both seasons are 2 cores, so it's going to be around 50 episodes, though the second season could just have one. I'm not entirely sure. I believe it's 2, though. What I do know between the 2 seasons, though, is that the second season, it sounds like it's a lot less action-focused, and it sounds like it turns some people off like that. But by extension, that basically means that the first season is a lot more action oriented, which is interesting. And I don't know, maybe that's why a lot of people grew to like it so much. But what I've seen, like from my periphery, is that season two is almost a litmus test and a way to filter out the true fans from the casual, you could say. I suppose in a similar way as Attack on Titan season three. Naturally, as somebody who is, I like action. Just look at my shows I've watched, but action is far less important to me than the story, than the characters, and an arc that's not really action oriented, that's more focused on the characters and on healing and on basically building out the themes of the story is right up my alley. So I have no doubt that I'm going to love season two, and I have no doubt that I'm going to love season one either, but I don't think I'm going to fall in with the crowd of people who didn't like the direction season two went, whatever that may be. But that's all basically speculation on my part. The only other really things I know about it are that I believe the main character's name is like Thorfinn, and I think he has a knife. I've seen it in like art, I guess. So I really don't know much. There's a lot of war, there's a lot of gore. It's in the My Anime List page, so clearly that's something that we're gonna look forward to. The resource I was given to watch this is going to be uncensored, so YouTube play nice to me, I suppose. But I guess we'll just have to see, because obviously I don't really know what to expect. So I'll be flying not by the seat of my pants per se. I do have the IPPC who's there to guide me and help me navigate through potential obstacles. But other than that, it's going to be mainly blind. And I really like it that way. I know almost nothing about it, and I think that's the best way to go into it. Not watching any PVs, haven't seen any of the openings. I think I've seen the ending torches and I've heard it, but I haven't heard it in so long, so it will probably just be like kind of sparking a bit of familiarity in my head, and that's about it. Yeah, I guess that is about it, actually. I genuinely don't think I know anything more about this. I'm really going in almost as blind as can be, so I hope you're excited for it as much as I am, because it's a brand new series. It's the very first poll voted series on my channel, so we're going to get into it and we're going to see how it goes. And with that, there's nothing left to do but get into the episode. Well, there is one thing actually. You should know that I do full reactions, however, the audios and visuals will be altered for copyright. If you want the unaltered version, that's going to be on Patreon for $2 a month. You get access to all my stuff. There's also my Discord on Patreon, however, you don't have to pay for that. It's just you have to join as a free member, and you can enter my Discord and interact with the other members of the IPPC outside of my YouTube channel. So if that interests you, or if the unaltered version interests you, go ahead and check that out. But with all that YouTuber housekeeping out of the way, we are just going to hop into Vinland Saga Season 1. Episode 1. Start of a brand new adventure. And it looks like we've got a motorcycle, which I believe is probably just a studio thing, because I think this is at the start of every episode. I was doing a little bit of looking around, but studio, okay. Gonna say that's a heck of a start for a show like Vinland Saga. This is much more like it. How peaceful. It's kind of giving me AOT final season vibes. Oh. The nice piano track. Beautiful. Thors. Main character's parents, perhaps? Helga. You just like step in a bear trap? Oh. He stepped on a sword, didn't he? Oh, that was fun. That was really fun. The spinning camera. Getting right in front of his face as he walks forward. What the hell? This is definitely the uncensored version. Oh my. Jorgen Gavagavava. Year's 987. Okay, cool. Okay. That's one way to put it. And those are arrow storms. Thors. Loki. God, I've got so many names I'm gonna have to learn. Okay. Tell me he's just gonna like dive into the ocean. Nope, he's going to boat leap. Okay, Yushi Wakamoto, I see you. Okay, yeah, we got a straight up berserker here. Jeez. Oh god, the blood in the ocean just slowly staining it red. Very nice. So this guy is a monster. When the weather change. I wonder how much mythology is going to play a part in this. Presumably, ooh. He's barely putting any effort into it, too. Ooh. That's war for you. Ow. But he's barely even flinching. What an absolute unit. Oh, hey, the arrow's out now. That's probably for the best. Jeez. Oh. Weighing you down. No. What a crazy start. All the crazier because of the initial scene, right? The peaceful open. Makes this contrast so much more jarring. Just crazy because just starting off with the war would already leave quite an impact, but it's even stronger because of the moment of peace we had before it. The horizon is set alight. Jeez. And there's the title card. Welcome to Vinland Saga. Okay. Good lord. Oh, we're getting the opening now. Okay. Let's see what we got. Okay, there's our main character right there. So is this story just going to be someone's experience through like these Nordic wars? Survive Said the Prophet. I know that name. I think I have heard this song before, but kind of beautiful. Ooh, like a duel? No. Has a little kid running around. So, is that his parents or is like adopted? Huh. Nice, through the different ages. King of some sort. Survive Said the Prophet, given their usual screamo. Someone answer me. Jeez, screaming into the starry sky. That is an emotional opening. Like, I'm probably speaking too soon, but it doesn't seem to be quite as symbolically focused as a lot of ones I've seen, but it seems very emotionally charged, right? Putting you inside the world. Putting you inside the perspective of this, who I believe is our main character. And yeah, this is super far north, so it's going to be quite snowy. Year 1002, so this is like... Oh god, it was like 980 something, wasn't it before? Or was it 990? So at least several years, maybe over a decade, because I have horrible memory. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'll do the research I can to try to like remember names and stuff, but intro episode, all bets are off. He is Thorfinn. Okay. That was unnecessary. But a little pouty face. Very cute. Just your typical old school farm life, right? I assume he's waiting for his dad to come home. Or is he waiting for a chance to join him? Whoa, that water looks so interesting. Curiosity towards the sea. Telling stories to the youth. And your father was one of those brave adventurers. Oh? A new continent. Interesting. It's orchestral music in the background too. There it is. Vinland. How interesting. Leif. Okay. We've got quite a passionate MC, it looks like. Yeah, so this is past Iceland. This is presumably the Americas, right? Because the Norse, unknown to a lot of people, the Norse arrived to the Americas much earlier than the rest of Europe, really. I believe it was around this time frame, so I presume this is actually like placed within our history. Even if it's historical fiction, I can't even speak. Historical fiction. Yeah, he's a very passionate young boy. Jormungand. Oh, look at a little fish floating around. Kids. Sailors as opposed to warriors. Soldiers. I mean, he's right. Sailors do some crazy stuff, especially in that ocean. In those waters. Uh-oh. He's backing off. You're just a sailor? That's all? Takedo. Okay, maybe don't. That reaction already tells me that he's a very paternal, very loving father and father figure, right? Not just to his son, but to, it seems, to all these kids. Which is always great to see. Such a large, powerful, like, masculine man, also being this caring and being this gentle with the people. Yeah. Greenland's not a very hospitable place, despite its name. Oh, hey. Who's this? Ylva. Sister, presumably. Okay. That's how it is up north. In my country, like Iceland? Or even further, like Finland. Oh my goodness. Thorfinn, what are you doing? It's so cartoonish. I love how, like, the bright colors fit so under the child's imagination. The show's done a really good job. Oh, look at them. I know, a lot of respect in that way of addressing her. What about? I respect that. I know. Ooh. Cool little focus shift. Too expensive. Plus, you're young, you can handle it. Of course, in this time, something like that is completely normal, right? It'd be like us going around saying, why can't I buy an Alexa? Buried under the snow? Gilva. That's an intense expression. What is that? Or who is that? There's your slave. Don't know how much use he'll be, though. But you're a sailor, aren't you? I couldn't possibly wonder why. Just knows how ruthless the ocean is, yeah. Kawaii is putting it lightly. Jeez. Yeah, what can you even do in that situation? Yeah, sailors are warriors too. Yeah, I'm really curious why they're in Greenland. Is it like a generational thing, or did they originally live on Iceland? Iceland obviously being way more hospitable. More hospitable. Don't tell me he's still alive. I mean, his arms did not look good. Very caring people. there a deeper reason to it, or is it just the value of life? Much further to the east. Okay, so probably Norway. Yeah, yeah. A little warmer. Winters are still pretty brutal, though. So I've heard. I've never been myself, but... Whoa, look at this guy. A conqueror. So we fled. Yeah. That sounds about right. Didn't they say they were in Greenland? I mean, I guess they're like right next to each other, so maybe the delineation's not a big deal. I thought they said they were in Greenland, though. In denial. Yeah, because that's not the most glorious past. You wouldn't call it, like, cowardly or anything, but it's... imagine hard to accept for somebody who's so... Yeah, you're walking in on quite the scene. He's actually alive. Really? Oh shit. I'm surprised he's still alive after that. Survivor. Huh. I was gonna say no family or anything like that, but I guess as a slave, all you have is what you're given to. And they're to pick up their property, presumably. What a line, jeez. What a design. What an interesting OST with like the strings in the background, but, like coming in and out. Oh, those tense little plucking. Jeez. Yeah, these things just kind of happen. Okay, this guy kind of scares me. A lot of control with that chain. I don't like the good control a guy has with that. Oh! Just slashed him. Ah. The way to make a hair. What a line. Yeah, I'm with you there. Slav. Oh, hey.
どこだ
It's like a dream state?
こんなに安らかな気持ちは初めてだ
Kind of reminds me of that first
しっかり
scene.
しろおいあんた気を
Don't
張れ
tell me that's like
死ぬぞ
Valhalla
トールズ
afterlife.
親父おふくろ姉さんもみんなここにいたのか心配してたんだバラバラに売られたからここはどこなんだなぜ俺は
遥かな西
Oh, that piano piece hits.
ヴィンランドという名の土地があるそこは暖かく豊かで奴隷商人も戦の炎も届かぬ
For now.
どうだいつか俺たちと一緒にその地で暮らさないか
Yeah, he's really carrying. Playing the part of his... Maybe not playing the part of his family, but...
ここはヴィンランドというのか
Oh, the music cutting out. And that's the chain guy. Yeah. Bit too late.
武作法は許せよトールズ 俺は
Some respect
そこは
there.
俺の正当な所有者だ
A lot of respect there. I mean, seeing what he was doing years ago as a warrior, no wonder he has respect.
おいでトルフィン
Jeez. Yeah, let the adults handle this.
ですね
Oh, that's
冗談じゃないん
half-done.
ですよあなたの奴隷が死にそうなとこを助けたわけでして
ハーフ団この男いくらで買った
Don't tell me he's gonna buy him off him.
父上そんなこと聞いちゃ失礼よ
羊2頭若い
Yeah, I don't think Thor's the kind of person to care about that.
どうだハーフ団
Well, you did ask for a
そい
slave.
つは連れて帰る他の奴隷の前で見せしめに拷問せにゃな
Of course. Of course. Oh, what an imposing figure.
てめえハーフ団さんの言ったことがわからねえの
You want to pick a fight with him? I don't think you do.
バイといえばだそう
Negotiator.
全て山菜
No way. Why?
くたばり損ないに羊8頭とはな
Yeah, an example is important, but if you're gonna get that much from it, then I
取引だぜ
basically a steal.
商談成立
Yeah, like why?
トールズそれでそいつの鎖を解いてやったつもりか
You just transferred them.
でそいつをどこへ連れて行く
Vinland, of course.
羊はこちらで選ばせてもらうぞ
Don't tell me it's just a bleeding heart. I mean, I say it like it's weakness, but given the cost of that, it, like, kind of is. As heartless as to say it.
悲しいわよ羊8頭もしたのに、あっという間に死んじゃったのよ
Yeah, she's just upset about this. She's just upset about the use.
僕らも逃げてきたの
Which is, like, understandable.
おっちゃんがご先祖様は東から逃げてきたって
Mm,
逃げてここに来たって
ああそう伝えられている
that's what they say.
じゃあ
Ooh.
じゃあ
Yes.
ここからも逃げたい人は
Where are we gonna go?
どこに行くの
Who are you? You are very square-shaped. Oh my god, again, the orchestral music coming in. This is a great soundtrack already. Beautiful visuals too. I wonder how long we're gonna spend in this past before we get to the, which I presume is the present day. I mean, it's South Orphan looks most of the opening. And I assume that's the dagger he'll have. Okay. Yeah, this is Torch by Aimer, I believe. Oh, what an intense first episode. Let's see what this CD's about. It's a beautiful song. Is it just gonna be nostalgia about the village? Ooh. That does not give me a good feeling about his father. Sail away again, huh? It's gorgeous. The like lines running through him. The northern lights. Yeah, and there's him again. And back there, or I presume is Vinland. All right, that was Vinland Saga, the pilot episode, season 1, episode 1. And what a pilot it was. Beautiful opening, which I guess as we see, or I guess it's not exactly the same. Yeah, it's not quite the, what I presume is Vinland or perhaps Valhalla that we see the other people in, though it has a very similar aesthetic. I presume this is a place from when he was younger. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it is Vinland. It's a different part of it. Either way, it's a beautiful opening. I really like how this episode, and pardon me as I make a lot of JJK references, because that's the main series I've had on this channel. I might make some pre-run as well, but the structure of it feels kind of like the inverse of JJK's first episode, where JJK starts out fairly slow and builds out the normal life before switching into a incredibly strong hook with the introduction of Fushigudo and Sukuna and all that stuff at the end of the episode. Whereas this one has a very gripping start and then afterwards just allows the candle to burn, right? It takes its time and doesn't feel the need to throw in a bunch of stuff to keep your attention and to interest you, because it does plenty of that in this opening scene. But knowing this is a story about gore and opening up with this, like, the flash of white into beautiful, I think it's wheat, as this character just stands up and looks over this beautiful, bright landscape with the shining clouds, the rising sun, who presumably is his wife and his child, Thorfinn, or maybe it's the older sister, whose name I'll definitely remember at some point. E something. It's like a 4-letter word, but we'll get to that in a second. For now, we cut out of that in a also another interesting way. He like tries to walk over to her as if he's trying to go over to this peaceful past, to this hope, probably a past, potentially a alternate world, a world that doesn't really exist. But I'm really curious where this would be if this is his past. Obviously, it seems to be his present self, but if this is his past, where is this? Is this in Iceland somewhere? I don't think it's all the way back in Norway. I don't think he's that old. And it sounds like that was quite a bit of time ago. Again, we'll get back to that when we get there, but just that transition of him like stepping on something and turns out to be the the helmet of this disembodied head. Oh my god, this is definitely the uncensored version. We get this beautiful rotating shot as he fights off this guy. Jeez, yeah. I'm not gonna spend too much time going over this for the sake of demonetization. Oh my god, okay, yeah, this is, I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful opening scene. 98. Okay, yeah, so it was like 15 years prior. Hjörungavar, I assume. Hjörungavag? Hjörungavag, I think. And there does seem to be an interesting blend of 3D animation and 2D, which works pretty well, honestly. I like the bobbing because they're obviously on the boat out in the sea. And this guy just, I mean, the point of this scene is pretty obvious, right? Not only does this guy have quite the bloody past, but he's incredibly powerful. And not only is he just really strong, but he's incredibly stoic and somebody remembering a loved one. I really like this. This is really cool. The hail starts raining from the sky, and pretty much as soon as it starts hailing, something else comes raining from the sky. Arrows. It's just a very nice bit of continuity, that's the word. It's nice continuity. And then they get knocked into the ocean, into the waters, more blood, the entire ocean's being stained red slowly but surely, and he escapes onto land to see the absolute hellscape of this ocean battle, and then we get our title card. It's like I said during the episode, that peaceful open, that idealistic scene where we even get the flash of light into the swaying of the wheat, of the grass, to juxtapose it with this makes it so much more impactful than if we just started with this, right? It hits so much harder because we have that juxtaposition. Whereas if we just opened on this, or like Attack on Titan, where we just open on, the colossal Titan looking over the wall, it's not bad. I want to get that clear, but it creates a very different effect. If you just start with this action scene, with this bloody war field, then it's set in our heads that this is the story, right? This is the first thing we're seeing. First impressions are everything after all. So it very much sets our expectations moving forward. However, because we started with that peaceful scene and then transitioned into this, it sets up a very different dynamic. It sets in our heads that this is going to be a story of contradiction. Maybe not of contradiction necessarily, but a story of two extremes, of a world that in one moment can be peaceful and the next moment you can be slicing someone in half. A world where both of these are normal, where this is just how life is, and these two seemingly incongruous worlds are all melded into one, right? And you get that feeling from this. It's also interesting that we start with the peaceful and then go into this, because it's kind of like a peaceful sandwich, right? We open up with this calm, this serene landscape, this dreamscape, if you would. We go into this crazy battle, and then we skip ahead into the future where there's not a whole lot of conflict. There's plenty of conflict, but not a whole lot of this, right? It's very different. So our hook is kind of sandwiched in between a lot of peace, which is, on the surface, sounds pretty normal, but most stories don't include that sandwich. They just have a pizza, I guess you could call it, right? They don't start with the peace, they start with this craziness. Like I said, AOT does it. So the fact that we don't do that implies that this is not a story about this bloodshed, about this gore, about this slicing people in half, right? And perhaps this is me taking knowledge I shouldn't have, or potentially faulty knowledge I shouldn't have, where I hear season 2 is a lot less action focused as the first season. And if that's true, and if the story doesn't feel the need to be super action focused and to build out the story as it wants to, then this opening scene is perfect for that. Because we don't open on an action scene, we open in this beautiful landscape. So in the future, if it takes a direction that is less action oriented, we are already primed for that, because we didn't really start here. This isn't our norm of the story. And I just think that's really cool. And at the same time, the title card being filled with the smoke and these embers reminds you that this is not going to be the exception either, right? This is very much going to be this battle, this dog eat dog world is going to be the norm. It's certainly not going to be isolated incidents. And then we get into the opening, which I'm not going to look at too closely yet because the potential spoilers and stuff, but there's also, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's, from what I can see, there's not a whole lot to analyze, at least not having seen the show. But there is a lot of panning shots and a lot of environment. And it really just kind of feels like you're almost like a cameraman going through this guy's life and seeing all these different parts about the world, about his journey, these different characters. And that final scene is definitely something we want to look at a little bit closer, but the rest of it's pretty straightforward, right? All the juxtaposition between these like large scale like armies clashing and this singular character who's obviously our protagonist. And it really feels like a saga, right? It really feels like we're going to go through this guy's journey throughout scales of time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we spend more than like 2 episodes in his like backstory, and if we actually spend some time there. I don't think we're gonna spend that much time here, but it feels like this story isn't necessarily setting up this like his past as this own isolated thing, right? Like episode 1 is this, and then the rest of the episode he's like this. It may very well do that. Like half of episode 2 may just be in the past, and then we go to the present day. Or we could spend like 4 or 5 episodes with him as a kid and then switch over to this. And it has the flexibility to do either of that, which is interesting. This opening doesn't necessarily spoil that. It keeps this open to you, to interpretation. But of course, the most interesting thing I want to talk about with the opening is this final bit, right? That's so evocative and fits perfectly with the music. Him like screaming out into the universe, into the sky, standing atop a literal hill of corpses as the absolutely breathtakingly beautiful starry night, fully populated with stars, yet feeling so terribly empty. It really evokes this feeling of desperation, of being in a world that should not exist, a world of contradiction, a world where the surroundings are so beautiful, but the world around you is so heartless, so miserable. This feeling of like being the only person surviving after a battlefield, on a battlefield after whatever insane conflict just happened. And the universe is just indifferent, right? It's just watching over you quietly. Not that it's lungs to speak with, but. And like in that kind of circumstance, it's hard to blame somebody who's going through something like this for looking up to the sky and just screaming, right? There's that feeling of screaming into the void, the idea of being alone in the world, of all of these issues and everything that's like plaguing you, that's weighing you down, and the world is just indifferent. It's feeling like there has to be something more out there, right? That's the other thing. The sky, the starry sky, this beautiful mosaic that's always watching above us, also gives the promise of more, right? And we see that in this episode with the idea of Vinland and with just his general optimism and aspirational, the glow in his eyes and Thorfinn's eyes as he thinks of other lands. It's just really evocative. The whole opening is just really emotional more than anything. And Koko de wa nai doko ka. Yeah, referring to Vinland mainly, and just Thorfinn's desire to go out, right, and to see other things. So we get a lot of establishing shots, year 1002, which means, I think it is 15 years later, actually, in Iceland. I presume, like, some of these scenes are in Iceland, some are in Greenland, that's why they're talking about both of them. I mean, they're, like, neighbors, so they're right next to each other. I don't know enough about geography or really any of that to comment. I just know that Iceland is, of course, the green one, and Greenland's the ice one. Iceland, of course, being much more populated right now, being like a full proper nation, and Greenland just kind of not. I mean, there are still people who definitely live there in their communities, and I think there's like a mayor. There are like leaders there, but it's just not a hospitable place for the most part. And like right out from the start, right, he's doing all these little mundane chores, trying to warm up his hands, and before he's spoken a word, we see him looking out into the vast ocean, the horizon beyond, and his eyes shine. Already you can feel this idea of him wanting to go out and explore and see what else is out there. And then we get the most classic of classic exposition stories where we've got kids around a fire and we've got the storyteller giving some great tales about their exploits. We founded the new continent, which I think is all but, I mean, it's got to be America, right? I mean, Greenland, Iceland, it's much closer to America than it is to Europe, and they're talking about going over east, so since they were escaping from the east, it's likely they went west, and they arrived at the Americas and named it Vinland. How about it, boys? Have a better opinion of me yet? Leif Erikson? Eric, son of Eric. Was it warm? Was it bigger than Iceland? So big, you don't know where it ends. Little did they know, right? The Americas are freaking gigantic. I mean, they're no Asia, but it's huge. Father comes home. Mother helps him out, while Thorfinn reveals how spirited he is. He's always got this like shine in his eyes, right? And I can already tell it's going to be heartbreaking, as in the future he loses that over time and the real world sets in and he realizes just how horrible things are. And from that ending, I've got a really bad feeling it's going to come with him losing his father or something similar to that. We'll see, though. Maybe it's even worse than that, but I'm like playing with the little headdress. It's very cute. It's very cute. And speaking of very cute, these things are adorable. And we see it later when he goes into like his imagination, his dream, and it's all colorful, right? It's this idyllic vision of like going out and seeing the world. The battlefield isn't the only place where warriors are found. Sailors fight against the sea. They're amazing, and honestly, they are. They're incredible. I mean, even this is the Atlantic. Obviously, the Pacific Ocean is even worse, but especially this far up north, the Atlantic is nothing to scoff at. You just can't think for yourself. He says to a bunch of like 10-year-olds, Thorfinn, you believe me, right? Backs off slowly. Do you manage a wandering old man who can't fight? You can fight the ocean, which is honestly more impressive than fighting against people. You gotta give respect where it's due here. Beat some sense into them, please don't. And then, oh, I didn't even catch that before. We do see the slave who's running away and arrives at our small little settlement. Several people froze to death in Greenland. Okay, so they were talking about Greenland while they're in Iceland, and the horn being used as a cup. Very cool. It's so cold. So we meet Thorfinn's older sister, Ylva, who is quite spirited. Not nearly as her eyes aren't shining quite as much as her brother's, but she's got a lot of spirit to her. So I really like the interaction with these family. You can really tell how close they are, and I mean how close this whole settlement is, right? It's a very small community, and that's just kind of how they do, right? That's how you get along. Everyone's family to some degree, right? Back in my country, my brother is making plans to emigrate right now. It's far, right? So presumably they're talking about Norway, if not like Finland or that kind of area. And then we reach the dreamscape I was talking about, where, I mean, the sky is perfectly clear with like wisps of clouds. He's wearing this like bright green vest with a red cape. The monster is this teal and light blue. It's so colorful, right? So optimistic, so unrealistic, so fantastic. And then he wakes up in his sister's embrace. I don't want to. This is warm. Who do you think warmed it up? I mean, she probably warmed it up a good bit herself, too. She's got a lot more body mass than you. Don't pay attention to them. Worrying is for adults. She's in her hand to stop. Hey, wake up. Hey, pay attention. Hey, come on. Pay attention. And then, yeah, keep us warm. Very cute. And presumably they were having that talk about Greenland, about the winters. This is really cool. This is a cool little framing. It's almost like looking through a stained glass window. And then the shift in focus. Oh, looks beautiful. The art in this show is already captivating. in a very different way from the shows I've seen. I guess closer to Freerun than anything, but while Freerun looks like paintings in the background, this is different. It's hard to put into words. We should get a slave. Just the most casual thing in the world, because it kind of is, right? It kind of is back now. Oh, jeez. I was gonna die. Yeah, gotta be more careful up there. So she finds... God, those arms are just... ugh. No wonder he didn't last very long. It's a miracle he woke up at all. Ask for a slave and you shall receive. Horrible irony. How much of that story was true? It's all true, obviously. And then he tells us about the perils of traveling, which is hardly a surprise, right? Why do we live so far north? Well, we weren't exactly welcome elsewhere. And then, on the topic of more character acting and more defining our characters, which this episode's really good at, a start of a show generally should, right? You want to care about these characters that you're going to invest your time into, right? That's, I think most people would agree, is the one thing that's like more important than setting up a plot people want to see is characters we want to follow. It doesn't matter how good your plot is if the characters aren't people we're invested in, people we're interested in seeing develop. And even in the case like his father, where I'm really afraid we're not going to see him for a whole lot of the story, like, this also sets up characters in the eyes of other characters, right? Like, this guy puts so much effort into making sure this guy is okay, alive, comfortable at the very end, and not ready to be tortured. Though I guess if he'd been taken away by his owner, he probably would have died before he got to be tortured in front of everyone. But regardless, the idea is the same, right? This guy is clearly very caring. His soft voice when he's talking with the kids. He's clearly somebody who's very paternal. A very positive masculinity, not the sort you see very often these days. And as I imagine it'll be most important and most relevant in the future, he's a very caring father, which is going to impact Thorfinn, of course, a lot, right? And whether or not something happens to him, if and when Thorfinn and Thors go their separate ways, the memory of this good father, of this incredible man, will still be ingrained, both in Thorfinn and in us, right? So we get some backstory on how they ended up here. Ancestors lived to the east in a land called Norway. Much warmer than here. Still gets pretty darn cold, but not quite Greenland levels, Iceland levels. One day, Harald appeared. A conqueror. A uniter, if you would. And as conquerors tend to do, obey me or get out. Which is honestly not too bad. There are certainly worse options out there than obey me or leave. But, I mean, it's a tale as old as time, right? People coming to lands, fleeing lands and arriving in new ones. It's the whole thing behind Americans, right? Fleeing persecution, fleeing from rule they can't abide by. Or that can't abide by them. Thorfinn goes to confront his father about this far less illustrious past, this lineage of fleeing rather than chasing, right? I think that's one of the big things that is getting him. Yeah, it's the idea of he's an explorer, right? He wants to see the outside world. So the fact that they're in this inhospitable place, not because they were explorers, but because they were fleeing, is a contrast that's rather uncomfortable, right? Is a truth that kind of goes against his worldview. It goes against the way he sees everything and the father he looks up to. My father would never do this. Again, it's a very childish perspective that is all too understandable. And then, amazingly, this guy wakes up. And we learn about Halfdan, which everyone else seems to know about, and we will very soon as well. This guy who very much likes chains and is really good at wielding them. Alarmingly good at wielding them. We get some conflict, and this guy is clearly very relentless, both to enemies and to friends. Yeah, I agree, Ylva. I could not agree more. That is my expression precisely. So then we get to the slave, and we get to a vision of his. A hallucination, you could say. Or perhaps more than that. This peaceful world. it feels, I don't know too much, like I said, about Norse mythology and about these cultures, I will say, but it makes me, I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of heaven, right? Someone on death's door who sees this peaceful land, and I would assume that's similar to what Valhalla is like. This peaceful afterlife, right? This land you go to when you're dead, which, though I'm pretty sure it's more of like a warrior's thing, but on the other hand, there's also Vinland, right? This faraway land, this paradise, this place where that's so warm, peaceful, none of these conflicts are. That's somewhere else, right? That the title is named after. And he hallucinates, starts seeing family because he's clearly on death's door. His family were sold elsewhere because that's how slaves are treated historically for over a millennium. Faraway land without slave traders, without war, because mainly without people. I mean, it's certainly not without war. I would argue it's not without slave traders either, because natives. But from what they can see, right, doesn't have those things. It's this paradise, this idyllic land. Odds are he doesn't actually believe that, right? I mean, he says all this while we don't see his face. It's very explicit. We're not seeing his expression as he's saying these things. It's a falsehood, right? It's said to comfort him mainly, and probably also said to his children. And if that isn't clear enough, the mother looking with surprise and then looking down at the slave, the fact that he takes his hand, he's just so comforting. He's so paternal. I love him so much. Thors is amazing. And even more amazing is how much respect this man gets. And we saw from the flashback he definitely deserves it, but like, she's obviously very concerned about being rude about these very imposing figures, but they're not the only imposing figures. And one of my favorite shots of the episode, this absolutely incredible shot of this hulking figure literally towering up over everyone else by an entire head. He is not somebody to be messed with. And he negotiates with a completely straight face, with quite an insane deal. I want to make an example out of him, but I'm not going to say no to a ridiculously, almost cheap deal like that. Cheap in many ways. And of course, he knows better. There's nothing to be gained from this from Thor's perspective, right? It's, oh my god, I didn't even notice that before. Ylvis, it's gonna take a minute, but the sister is just with that typical anime, like the dark, shadowy lines of, oh, we lost so much for this guy who's literally about to die. And I wonder if she's thinking back to when she was just talking about wanting a slave. And, well, be careful what you wish for, right? Monkey's paw is a hell of a drug. Oh, the Northern Lights are beautiful. The it's really funny how, like, you see her mourning, you see her crying, and the initial thought is, oh, this guy just died. She's sad that this person died, but like, hell no, she's upset because her father just traded away all these sheep, and like, it's not exactly an excess, right? You can't just do that. But of course, he's the patriarch, so he can do whatever he wants. And again, it says a lot about his character, right? It says that he's willing to do that, that he's a really caring human person. He's really caring, and that he treasures life and people, and even people being comfortable in death. And who the square guy is, but that sounds really interesting. But it really feels like that's the main crux of this episode, right? It's really about Thors and about establishing what kind of person he is and how people see him. He barely even flinches at the idea of giving all of the ewes, right? Giving all these sheep under 3 years old. But like, that's not a small deal, right? But it's worth it to him. It's valuable to him that this person has a comfortable ending, which is really incredible. Coming from somebody who, at the start of the episode, we saw slaughtering people left and right. It's the kind of guy who is unwavering in his conviction and his beliefs and his values, and yet is just as unflinching when it comes to protecting people he cares about and slaughtering his enemies and protecting himself, right, from those enemies. And there's also the idea that these are temporally separated, right? There's also a chance that as he grew up with his kids, he became even more paternal and he became more family focused. This scene here implies that he very much still has that dog in him. He still is very imposing and more than willing to kill. But I am curious if that was more of a change between then and now, or if those are just two different sides of the same man, which they very well could be, right? That's really what I get from this episode. Just as much, and if even more than learning about Thorfinn, learning about his optimism, learning about his desire to go out and his rejection of the less than illustrious past of why they got their family and their settlement got here. This episode's really about Thors and about establishing him, and it's really, really engaging without having to try too hard for it, right? It just tells its story, it shares its interactions, it presents its characters, and just says take it or leave it. And I really respect that. It's a slow burn. It's got its hook, but it's a slow burn. It's not in a rush to tell you this is where we're going. This is some crazy thing that's going to happen. This is some insane dragon we're have to fight. It's got its teasers, don't get me wrong, but it's a story that's very confident in itself, that knows it has a good story to tell and doesn't ask you to join it. It simply offers its hand and invitation. And I really respect that. As for the ED, like the opening, there's not a whole lot I can glean from it, at least from not having seen any of the show. But again, it's very emotional, right? And this feeling of like the colors desaturating and eventually just being eviscerated into nothingness and then going to him, it feels very Death Flag coded, and I don't like the sound of that. I really hope we're just like going our separate ways. But this one, even more than the opening, right? The opening is showing like the world and these these communities clashing and the nature of this world, while this one is really all about Thorfinn and the way he's reacting to the world. It's like the opening is him running through all this chaos, while this is him experiencing the moments in between. The beauty of the Northern Lights, the hauntings of his own past, the torch in his hand, the potential of the future, the eventual lands he has to reach, and that right there looks a lot more like what we saw at the start of the episode with Thors. So presumably, yeah, that was a similar dreamscape. And he was just kind of projecting his younger self and his younger wife there into this land of paradise, this Vinland. But it's absolutely beautiful, and already setting this up as this idyllic place to reach, as this utopia, this Neverland, if you would. It just does a great job building up the audience expectations, right? Not saying like this is where we'll end up necessarily, but just showing you that this is like the apple of his eye, right? This is his destination. This is his goal, the place he wants to reach. So wherever the story goes, the fact that this is in the ending, this is the last scene, it's sort of our North Star, right? No matter what craziness ensues in the story, we will always end it off with this. Unless there's a post-credit scene, in which case, you know, it is what it is. But I really like it. I really enjoyed it. The emotional ending, the chaotic opening, everything in between. It's just a phenomenal pilot, and I can already start to see, this feels very trite to say, but it's true, so I'll say it. I can already see why people wanted me to watch this. Even just one episode in, there's so much to build out. There's so much of a story that is not in a rush to get where it needs to go. And I love those stories. I'm a very patient person in a lot of ways. I also have ADHD, but I'm more than willing to sit here and watch this for as long as it goes. I don't actually know if there's a season 3 or not. I know right now there's not. I presume the story goes beyond season 2, but I don't really know, and I don't really want to know. So don't tell me in the comments. But do tell me in the comments what you thought of the episode, or what you thought of I said. Whether it's something you disagree or agree with, or something episode I missed, a misinterpretation, a clarification you want to give, or just context around the episode. I know a lot of members in the IPPC already just, their eyes sparkled when they heard that last bit. But I hope to see you down there. I read every single comment without exception, and if I've reacted to it, then I've read it. Now, if your comment is the comment I most want to talk about in the episode for the next one, then I will put it in the comment of the day in the next pre-up prep, and I'll discuss it at length before the episode on camera. So hopefully I will see you down there, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode. Do remember to like if you really enjoyed it, because it helped me out so much. It shows me you enjoyed it, and it shows the algorithm that you're engaging with it, so it'll show it to more people, and we can build out this community. And yeah, subscribe to get notified next episode, blah, 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 YouTube your housekeeping stuff. I should do all of that because it's a new story. A lot of you are probably new here, but I just want to bask in this feeling because I'm certainly feeling a certain type of way after watching this, so I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to bask. I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, have a lovely rest of your day.